Week 2 of Vintage Super League. Hello and welcome to round number 1. Randy Bueller and Chris Pakula here. We're going to watch Bob Maher's Tezzerator deck, which, wow, he's got Mox into Mana Vault into Voltaic Key. Is that enough mana given that it's a Sapphire? I guess the rest of the hand doesn't actually do anything. Yeah, but Shay, meanwhile, sitting on all the good library on the play, but still, first turn library, right?
He has both libraries.
He has both libraries. It's library.deck.
Yeah, this is a really good opener for Rich.
Yeah.
Because he can play Library of Alexandria, draw a card next turn, go landload a Sylvan, and know he can draw back up to 7.
Right. He can even misstep something and still Sylvan his way back up into Library of Alexandria range.
Yeah.
Bob did mulligan. I think he had to. Sees a red blast on top with the Scry.
Yeah, Bob had the no red mana 2 red blast hand, right?
Yep. Yeah, he had Sapphire was his only colored mana.
But now his hand is a very quick. So Rich, all right, he's going the other library first. I hadn't thought about that, but I guess.
Oh my goodness! So he can pay 8 and be on turn 2 and tap Library of Alexandria for a card on turn 2.
Right.
Now, does Bob Maher want to force a will turn 1 Sylvan?
I think he. Oh wow.
I mean, you're throwing a Thoughtcast away, which is going to be turned on almost instantly.
I still feel like you kind of have to.
Well, we're going to see. Like, Sylvan Library is Rich Shay's pet card, has been for a couple of months now. We're going to get to see it in action. This is kind of awesome.
He's got the combo in his hand, too.
The Seeker of the Way to get the life. He Force a Will's Mana Crypt. Yes, sir.
I just can't support that with the library in your hand, right? Because now
I'm with you. I was going to pay 8 life to Sylvan and be on the Library of Alexandria plan.
Huh.
Wow, Force a Will, turn 1 Mana Crypt. I mean, it is true that Bob mulligan to 6, and you might be mana screwing him, but still.
But no, I don't like that play at all.
Rich didn't hesitate.
No, he didn't.
And it doesn't. Is he not paying any extra life here? Put 2 cards back.
Wait, so he doesn't want to repeal this. Oh, he's going to repeal Soul Ring and draw the mental misstep.
Oh, okay. That's pretty sweet, actually.
Yeah, that's great. But I still don't understand.
He's trying to do him dirty. He's going after Bob's mana. It's like, you mulligan to 6. I've got a Sylvan Library. I'm just going to mana screw you. I don't think it's going to work, though. Bob's actually drawn 3 just lands. And Rich has had to use a lot of resources to fight the Mana Crypt and the Soul Ring.
Yeah, I guess I'm just sort of surprised by Rich's decisions here. You'd think that you would want to get up to 7 cards. Then it's very unusual lines Rich is taking.
Yeah.
Especially because you want to get to your white mana, because you know Bob doesn't have creature kill in his deck, so then you can actually do the Sylvan Seeker thing we were talking about. So it's like as soon as you get to a white mana, you know you're going to be able to recover all your life.
Here is Mental Misstep on Soul Ring.
Yeah, paying blue makes sense here.
Sure. It's with no reshuffle. Pay the life. Strip Mine, though. The mana destruction plan is still online.
This is so unusual.
I'm enjoying watching it.
Man, I wouldn't. How do you splash for Sylvan Library if you don't just take 8 every time you cast it?
I mean,
maybe he's, yeah. And maybe he really doesn't want to use. He wants to find a shuffle effect and not waste life on cards that are bad. But
But
with
having
the
bad cards in your hand gets you on the library plan. And now
right,
your
and
Bob has just Vampiric for
secret,
Ancestral, Resolved Ancestral.
and the secret of the way is, like I said, the secret way combo could actually end up mattering this game because you're both on low resources. But Bob isn't really on low resources anymore.
Mm-mm. Key or top? Top, right? Yeah. Wow. I mean, look, Rich may play more Vintage than any of us right now. He's been in all the Magic Online dailies. He knows this deck really well. I mean, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Well,
At the
he's
same
got
time, I have a lot of trouble resisting the urge to just pay life to Sylvan.
so he's
All
got
right, he
white
paid me
mana
life.
now.
Well, now he's behind.
He is behind for now, for sure.
Seeker. Bob could. No, Bob's going to hold on to his Force of Will.
It is interesting that it's a tempting Force of Will there.
Yeah. It's a lot of life for the Sylvan. Maybe that makes the case for the Seeker. The fact that you and I were both tempted to Force a Will it there.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's just the nature of the game. I mean, I don't think you could really Force a Will it. No, maybe it isn't crazy to Force a Will it.
Yeah, the reason not to is the fact that Thoughtcast is just turned on and like, okay, he's going to gain some life and maybe get an extra card off the Sylvan. You're already at, Mana Drain, Tezzeret range.
Right. But you could have Force a Willed and well, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. Bob is at what, 4 mana right now? So Tezzeret can search up a Time Vault if it resolves, but he would need a mana to Voltaic Key to untap it. So we're not quite there. It's real close though. If Bob gives off a mana drain on just about anything, I feel like he's going to untap and win the game.
I'm surprised Rich did not cast the Mentor here first.
As bait? I mean, he wants the Prowess trigger in the life is what he wants.
Well, he casts Mentor and then he gets Prowess trigger on both.
Yeah, he gets the Monk, sure.
I don't really I don't see the point of like representing anything here. Like
Fair.
Does he I forget what his hard counter count is, but I feel like not tapping your mana and leaving up 2 blue, I don't feel like is gonna make Bob play differently. So you might as well cast the Mentor. You cast Mentor post fast bound? That's
Yep. Oh, Voltaic Key to untap Seed of the Synod. I did not see that. Now Mana Drain is online. I was like, he's got blue and white. It's too bad he can't Mana Drain, but he can.
that's
Bob Maher, ladies and gentlemen. That is sweet. Voltaic Key to untap Seed of the Synod for the second blue for Mana Drain. Love it.
That's something you don't notice until you've played the deck a few times, I guess.
Yep, that's awesome. Now he's going to have 3 mana, and the game is just over. Tezzeret is going to search out Time Vault. There's going to be spare mana left over for Voltaic Key to untap Time Vault, and Bob's just going to take all the turns now.
Yeah.
He's even got mana to spin top upkeep? Yeah, I guess he does. He just wants a blue card. If he has a blue key, he's going to... Yeah, and he found one. He's going to have a blue card. Yeah, Tinker, oh, by the way, not a bad blue card. Wow.
Yeah,
Bob's got
very
Vault Key with Force of Will backup. It turns out Secret of the Way is not going to get there. Foily Tinker.
Yeah, I mean, Rich definitely did not have a great selection of cards on top of his deck.
Sure.
Although if he'd got up to library range, he would have seen more.
Yeah. Bob goes for the Tinker just because it's cheaper. There's the Time Vault, and I can't imagine Rich is going to make him play this out.
No. With a 1 more mana untapped, Rich could have faked could have represented the 1 main deck Ancient Grudge, but
There you go. TGO wins.
All right.
Great one. Bob Maher's nickname. Greatness at any cost. Of course, the flavor text on Dark Confidant.
No idea how Bob will sideboard here. I guess he'll bring in mental. Whoa, did Rich already sideboard?
Yeah, Rich had a plan. I don't know if that Rich knew exactly what he was going to do and did not want to give us time to see it. I think he's just ready to play again. What's really going on with Rich.
So it's a Vampiric Tutor going out. That's very common against any sort of decks with controlling elements to sideboard out the tutors. So far, Mana Vault coming out. That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
Is it just super vulnerable to Ancient Grudge?
I mean, that's unavoidable. Anger.
I mean, if it's in his sideboard, it's probably for Mentor decks, right? Isn't that why you would have a card like that in your board?
I gotta say, I really like the Dread of Night type sideboard cards against Mentor.
Sure.
Just having 1 mana and mess up every Mentor forever.
Mm-hmm.
Seems really good. What did David had illness in the ranks, right?
Yep.
So, well,
Bob has the 7th card that we can't see.
Yeah, these are 2 good opening hands again.
Yes. Rich's seems better somehow.
Well, he has Ancestral and Lotus.
And Snapcaster.
He can Ancestral twice
on the first turn. Yeah, that's not bad. Do you just run it?
I'm not sure.
I mean, I guess you do the first one, right?
Yeah.
And then decide. Bob does have a misstep. Interesting. Yeah,
so
I think you force. He discarded Gush, not Steel Sabotage. I was curious which of those he was going to choose. Forces through his Ancestral.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the
Gush. Trade for Bob, though.
I'm not sure on Gush versus Steel Sabotage there. I like this, I think.
Yeah, I think I like it too.
Get a clock down. Hopefully draw another blue card for your Force of Will so you can keep the Steel Sabotage. And man, now his hand is... So now he really can... He sort of can do the... try to 1-for-1. Well, Ancient Grudge is 2-for-1, but he now can play a really big resource denial game here.
Yeah, I mean, Rich used a lot of resources to get off those 2 Ancestrals, but he still Bob's down a misstep. He's up a land and a Snapcaster, and he's still got 7 cards in his hand.
Yeah. Oh, and Ancient Grudge here is going to be totally nuts.
Cacking the Sol Ring also turns off the Thoughtcast. Fast Bond's not bad. Now he probably wishes he had that Gush instead of Steel Sabotage, but
for sure,
you can't assume you're going to draw the one of Fast Bond.
No. But
this matchup seems fun to watch, right? These are interactive blue decks.
Oh, for sure. I mean, everything except Shops is fun to watch.
I don't know if I'm willing to say Dredge is fun to watch.
Dredge is fun to watch in this league. It's like,
okay.
It's like one of those, it's like
that like can't not look.
Yeah. I feel like when Dredge is playing, it's got that like going, like, as they just mulligan to 0 every game. So someone in the chat saying Shops is fun to watch, Storm isn't. Their nickname, Workshops. Unbiased.
Unbiased. I'm thinking about a Force of Will, this Ancient Grudge. It seems crazy.
It's not crazy, right? I mean, it's basically... Oh, though because he loses the Thoughtcast, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he would get to DT. Wow, he was really close to Vault Key. If he Force of Wills there, he could go. He could crack Scalding Tarn for black mana, Demonic Tutor, and put Time Vault into play. He wouldn't have had the 1 mana left over to activate it, but that said, he knows Rich is Ancestral twice and is sitting on 3 cards. So
Well, it's an Ancient Grudge. I mean, there's Ancient Grudge in the graveyard.
right.
So
Yeah, if it wasn't for the flashback on Grudge, I think Bob might have been tempted to go for that.
oh, I agree. He might as well. I mean, he's got to feel like he's, might as well go for it because the game's not looking good. Just take a shot.
And maybe you still do that, right? What's he going to DT for here other than Vault? I don't know that it's going to resolve. I think Rich is just going to use a Flusterstorm because it's convenient mana-wise.
No, I think this is a great Flusterstorm.
There you go. It's funny, we're talking about how we're all still playing spells from the 90s. The card drawing spells haven't gotten any better in the last 10 years. The permission somehow did. Flusterstorm is actually super relevant to Vintage.
Permission has got really complicated in Vintage. I remember there were times where it was like people were kind of playing just a mix of Mental Misstep, Flusterstorm, Spell Pierce. It really wasn't clear what was optimal. So Rich really needs a gush.
4 mana Thoughtcast. Speaking of bad divinations.
Yeah, I mean these guys. I mean, their cards in their hand kind of trade off right now, and
yeah.
Could Snapcaster just go all the way?
Bob, like all his artifacts are great here, though, right? Even a Seat of the Sign-On.
Not that one.
Sorry, not that one. You got me. Not that one.
That was great. You basically called that. You summoned it to the top of his library.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Yeah, Strip Mine for Rich is pretty good here. Bob is pinched on mana. He's going to just deal with the Snapcaster by himself a couple turns.
I'm not sure you're supposed to get the red or the black, but I mean, he has to Mental Misstep here, right?
Yeah, and then they trade back.
So this is a huge decision. Do you Force of Will?
Wow. He can hardcast Force of Will.
Oh, you can hardcast Force of Will.
You can tap 5 for it. I would tap 5 for it.
I think I would tap 5 for it also. Yeah, I think I would have forced that.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good draw. Yeah, Hardcast Force, I think was the play there. Oh boy.
Whoa, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Bob is, of course, going to attempt to Force of Will this. Rich is going to force back and be off to the races.
So we could have a really exciting moment here where if Bob just draws Time Vault, and then Rich will have 4 cards to... oh no, does he have Ancient Grudge in his yard?
He does. There's still a Grudge.
Boring.
Yeah, and Rich has kept the Mental Misstep, so he'd have Force of Will up. He did draw Time Vault. You summoned it to the top.
Yeah, I forgot about the Grudge. Don't force it.
Well, the thing is, if Bob plays a land, Rich...
Oh, yeah, you're right. You have to force it. I don't know what I'm talking about.
If Rich is holding a land, he just wins the game, so I don't think you can afford... I think Rich has to...
No, you can't. I made a mental misstep of my own.
Well, you can see Bob's hand. It's a lot easier.
Yeah,
Psychic play is let it resolve, untap Ancient Grudge, but that is truly psychic. How far ahead is Rich Shay? Bob's got 2 land and a Voltaic Key. Rich is on, 6 mana? Jace, Grudge still in the yard?
Right.
He's got another one in his hand. Seems like the right line.
Oh, now here's the game's over now.
Yeah. Monastery Mentor and a Gush.
I mean, it was over already, but
It was over when he found the Jace. It was super. I felt like they were kind of in top deck mode there for a while. I mean, I guess Rich always had that grudge flashback, but
yeah.
Rich does not like prowess triggers on Monastery Mentor, does he?
Well, yeah, it seemed like it could have been a one-turn clock. I guess he can still get it by just grudging the Voltaic key, and then oh no, he might not have it because there's only one. He could always.
He needs to find another spell. Grudge flashback grudge is not quite lethal. I mean, whatever. He's gonna force game 3. That is just what's going on here. That's a prowess trigger. That should do it, right? Well, there's no target for Ancient Grudge. He has to actually find a spell.
He can kill his own emerald.
Okay. Or he can dig through time, as he prefers.
Oh, he's gonna make us all watch this take through time.
You need the prowess trigger. Bob currently debating the merits of a concession. It's like, all right, I'll spend 30 seconds. Nope, not going to spend 30 seconds. On to game 3. Rich Shay played Ancestral Recall twice on the first turn. Bob sort of kind of stuck around for a while, but then Jace the Mind Sculptor showed up, and that was all she wrote. Rich confident that he has already figured out his sideboard plan and happy with it. He is bringing in all his artifact removal, it appears, and going after Bob's lands.
Do you see what Bob has in his deck here?
What's that?
Trinisphere.
Wow. Cute.
That's cool. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I like that here. Rich isn't on 4 Gitaxian probes or anything like that. It's not like he's gonna get. I don't think Rich's deck is that cloggy.
Well, it's in his opener.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's not like he's gonna workshop it out.
He's gonna play it turn 2 off of Pearl.
Man.
If he keeps the hand. Like that's if he keeps his hand, it's because he believes turn 2 Trinisphere is just great.
I think you definitely keep this hand. You think
turn 1 top, spin it, turn 2 Trinisphere. Yeah, I keep that hand.
And you have top with the mana to use it, and
yeah.
Your thought casts are really live.
Man, how good turn 1 Trinisphere would have been nuts there with 2 Moxes in Rich Shay's hand.
Rich's hand is just
a bunch of mana and a time walk. Oh, is Rich not going to play his Moxes? Okay, there you go. It's tempting to hold them in a Mentor deck. They're prowess triggers.
Well, I think he's got to play one because he probably feels like he has to time walk.
And
because he's got to hope to draw something.
I mean, that was his blue card for Force to Will.
Yeah, but there you go. See, he's got to find Ancestral or Gush or something. Or Sylvan.
Sylvan would be good here. Tundra, Steel Sabotage, Force of Will.
I think you
reshuffled.
Shuffled and got Gush. I was trying to figure out if he should keep the Steel Sabotage and then play a fetch. That seems fine to me too, right?
He is slow rolling the jet, and Bob's going to punish him with the one of Trinisphere in from the sideboard.
Yeah, I don't know if Rich is supposed to keep that Time Walk and mana opener.
I think everything Rich did there seemed reasonable to me. I'm just enjoying watching, blue deck versus blue deck.
Oh, for sure.
These are my favorite vintage matches. I mean, it's fun to try to kill somebody on the first turn or sneak through your combo, but give me the interactive blue deck matchup every time. So he can walk and then Trinisphere? That's got to be the line, right?
I think I like holding the jet, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
you hold Jet there. That's what you do. You're playing a mentor deck. You have no need for that mana. Holding Jet is correct. Like, the only reason to play the Jet is out of a fear of a one-of sideboard card that it's not even clear Bob's going to bring in.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think he's supposed to play it.
Bob gets to set up his draw step for his time walk turn. This is game 3. Bob does not want to fall in an 0-2 hole here in week 2. Rich would love to go to 2-0. I don't know. It feels like kind of a big swing for a week 2 match.
Yeah, I mean it is a big, it's always going to feel that way. There's just not that many rounds.
Here is the Trinisphere. Rich is he could force a will, discarding Gush.
Oh, I really don't like Force of Will here. I think you just got to play around this Trinisphere. You don't have anything.
Right.
And you have plenty of
mana. You have 6 mana. Your Gush is a lot worse with Trinisphere in play, but you just hardcast Gush, right? You pay 3 for Mox Jet.
I mean, Bob's stuff is worse with Trinisphere in play, right? Oh, what? It's not like Bob. What is Bob doing to play around Trinisphere? I guess if he has a lot of artifacts. I mean, it doesn't do anything with Thoughtcast, right? Thoughtcast still costs 3.
I believe Thoughtcast still costs 3.
Yeah, so I just feel like you get trapped with the Jet in your hand, which is certainly annoying, but I don't think you can force that Trinisphere. It's just too symmetric. Bob's deck doesn't really break the symmetry that well, I don't think.
And Rich randomly has a bunch of lands in his hand.
Right,
and exactly. It's actually kind of good versus his Trinisphere.
Yeah.
Jace, Thirst, Mana Drain are the cards on top of Bob's library.
No, it's certainly annoying that Rich has to wait to play a land next turn and then tap 3 mana and cast a Jet. And so he can keep 3 mana up for his Force of Will.
Right. Yeah, he definitely chose to keep up Force of Will rather than play a Jet last turn.
But what he really wants to do is draw another blue card so he can just play a 5th mana and then like EOT Gush and not even worry about the Jet.
True story. Bob sets up Mana Drain as his draw step.
Mana Drain is a symmetry breaker.
And Bob's got Jace floating on the top of his library.
Oh, you can't even EOT Gush Force of Will, though. You have to... Although Bob can't really do anything.
End of turn Gush is a decent play.
Right.
What's Bob going to do at instant speed to punish you?
Yeah, unless it's only Dig and Ancestral, but it's not that... I mean, unfortunately, his Gush will get Mana Drained, which is a serious bummer, but...
It means Bob won't have Force of Will, but I think he might be okay with that. Rich does not have the haymakers that Bob does.
It's one interesting thing here is that this is really crazy. Listen to this. Let's say Rich taps 3 mana to cast a Jet. If you Mana Drained the Jet, that would mean Rich couldn't cast anything if he doesn't have a land. Now, we know he does, but like if Bob had the right card on top of his deck where he wanted to like force something through, it would be really crazy to see him Mana Drain the Jet just to keep Rich off a spell for 1 turn.
So Rich did play a 5th land. We might see some fireworks during Bob's end step. Bob can only counter once, though. He cannot drain and force a will. Here's Rich cracking a fetch land. Do you Mana Drain this Gush in your own end step?
Yes. Because you want to do... I think you have to. Because you want to do stuff on... That's 5 mana on your next turn.
And you have Jace.
Oh, he has Jace on top of his deck?
Yes. Like you can Jace and Thirst for Knowledge.
This may be a weird game where nothing resolves for a really long time.
Wow. So Rich declined the Gush. And now at the end of Rich's turn, Bob goes for Thirst for Knowledge.
So I like this Flusterstorm.
Yeah. You get to counter the thirst. It's only and Bob would be able to pay for it if you hold on to it much longer.
Just 6 mana is the sweet spot here for casting 2 spells.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Rich got to 6, and Bob still.
So Rich should fetch right now, right? So that Bob can't cast an instant when he does fetch?
Probably true. How many lands does Rich actually have?
I was wondering that, but he's got at least one more trop, I'm sure.
Rich has 2 Trop, 2 Tundra, 2 Volcanic. So he's got 2 more. Bob declines Jace. He's going to leave up Mana Drain.
So Rich did wait to fetch on his turn. He was cognizant of the issue.
And he's still not interested in tapping 5 for Gush.
No, but Snapcaster's really good. Does he have a? Does he have? He doesn't have a Brainstorm or anything like that, right?
There's a Ponder, there's a Flusterstorm, and there's a Time Walk.
Yeah, he needs a. Oh, he could Time Walk, but that doesn't seem that good. And he just gets mana drained. He needs an instant so he can get the Snapcaster on the table without just throwing it in the garbage. This is going to be a bizarre game. It's like no one can do anything in their main phase.
Opal, Mana Crypt, Black Lotus.
So
he's finally going to draw some land.
Do you think Bob thinks that Trinisphere has helped him? I think he would. I think it has helped him, but maybe not worth a card. Like if it was another good card, that might have been better.
Man, those artifact mana are not. Bob actually wants lands.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now.
3.
If Rich draws Ancient Grudge, Bob is in serious trouble.
Down goes Seed of the Synod ×2. Oh, he's going to gush that way.
Well, I don't like returning lands. What's the point of that?
Tap 5. Pay the alt CC. You get it Mana Drain there, though. He does skillfully play around Mana Drain this way.
True.
Or at least, if Bob Mana Drains, Rich can force.
We can Flusterstorm, right?
Or Flusterstorm, yeah. Oh, yeah. This Flusterstorm's great. I was thinking he can't snap Flusterstorm, but he still has the second Flusterstorm in his hand.
But this is a lot of 2 cards. I mean, putting 2 land in your hand is, with the Trinisphere out, is not. That's not nothing.
No, but this has worked out way better than tapping 5.
Getting the Mana Drain out of his hand is
getting to Flusterstorm that Mana Drain is great. And like Bob hasn't played a land in forever. Rich didn't have a land drop in his hand. I don't know. I think Rich is right.
No, I think you're probably right. Especially because he really wants his Gush resolved because he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking, that I just need an Ancient Grudge, and he has 3. Like,
is it time to pay 3 for Jet?
I think it is, right? That's a very good point. I think you do pay 3 for Jet here.
I think our hand cam might have some lag. I think that's the Volcanic from the middle of his hand, right? His Magical Line says Rich has 7 cards on his hand, so.
Well, so what's Bob? Bob just hoping to draw Tolarian Academy? Is that his best draw?
Yes. I mean, Bob's had this problem where he's now floating Mana Crypt, which he can't really afford to. He's got the game in this situation where he could die to his own Mana Crypt. Also, it costs 3. He's got Mox Opal. He's got Black Lotus. And so he's pinched on mana, but he can't get the artifact mana from his hand into play without taking down his ability to force a will something.
Yeah, so he's lost. So I think Rich should cast the Jet.
All right. Rich
sounds like Rich crashed. So
he's going to restart his client. No big deal.
So this is interesting, this match. I will say that I don't know if the transfer is correct, but it certainly creates a game state that we would not get otherwise. And
it's been a fun game.
It really creates a. I mean, doing something at sorcery speed is just extremely dangerous in this Trinisphere environment.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I don't even know who the favorite is here.
I think Rich is pretty far ahead now. Bob's only got 4 land. Rich can do 2 things a turn. Even starting right now, if you count the Jet as a thing. And he can do 2 real things a turn starting next turn.
You're probably right.
Bob is stuck on 4 lands, and he can't afford to do anything.
Yeah, Bob is probably just... Rich's hand is not that good besides the Mentor, though. Right?
Yeah, but isn't the Mentor going to be good enough?
Well, I'm saying if he casts Mentor, can Rich actually... Rich has Force of Will still?
Well, if Rich casts Mentor this turn, he won't have
he
mana
won't cast
pay
Mentor
for.
this turn, so
right.
He's gonna
cast, future turn, Bob can. I think he casts Jet. I agree. They both have Force of Will, so they can trade off Force of Wills.
I think if he casts the Jet, Bob is probably going to have to cast the Jace because he's going to have to go for. Well, maybe not. Maybe.
So Rich is restarting his client. We will have both his hand and Rich himself back momentarily. Can we show off our preview card again while we're waiting for Rich Shay? I was going to do that at the end of the match. First ever Vintage Super League preview card. One of the new expeditions getting its official debut here. Mana Confluence with some sweet new art. And, of course, the Expedition card frame. One of quite a few vintage-relevant expeditions that are going to be showing up in Oath of the Gatewatch.
Yeah, that art is cool. I like it.
I like it, too.
How do you feel about the colorless mana when it's...
The colorless mana symbol?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fine. I think that... I don't know how many people were actively confused about the difference between colorless mana and generic mana. It is actually something that comes up when you teach people the game. So, I mean, I think that it was sort of this interesting templating debate for them, I'm sure. The idea that there are spells that can only be cast with colorless mana is, I think, the actually cool thing. Everybody seems to me to be getting obsessed about the colorless mana symbol and the fact that they're sort of retroactively doing things like you see Ancient Tomb, there's taps for 2 colorless mana, just like it always did, but you just write that differently. I think, though, seeing what they do with the set in terms of having this weird, the Eldrazi have always been this kind of inscrutable force, and so having colorless spells that require colorless mana is actually, I think, a potentially really cool mechanic for the set. That's the thing I'm excited about.
I've been impressed with this set as far as mechanics. I really didn't think the whole ingest thing was going to be cool at first because I was kind of just so their idea for a new mechanic was just what if we had 2 graveyards? That's kind of how it felt at first.
Sure.
But it doesn't feel it. But it feels way cooler than I expected it to feel. So I'm expecting that this will also feel at least as good as people think and probably better.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I like it better than ingest process.
If you were to type over to me the casting costs of something that required colorless mana, what would you type to indicate those symbols?
C.
C?
C.
Everything? All right.
No problem. 2C would be a 3 mana spell that requires 1 colorless.
Oh, here we go.
All right. We are back. Game 3 between Bob Maher and Rich Shay. Bob has iced this game with a Trinisphere. The players have been kind of staring across at each other for a while. Bob sat on a mana drain for a long time, thinking that that was how he was going to get to finally. Oh, Rich overdelves to cast Dig Through Time. I forgot you can do that. He cast Dig Through Time for blue because he delved 7.
Oh, I didn't even know that worked.
Yeah, you can overdelve and pay for Trinisphere that way. Now he gets to resolve a Dig Through Time and still leave up Force of Will, and there's the Ancient Grudge you've been talking about him looking for. Overdelves with Dig Through Time.
Over.
I think this Trinisphere is officially hurting Bob now. Not gonna lie.
Oh, this is really grim for Bob.
Or do you even have to overdelve? If you, is it count as an
No,
8 mana spell on the stack? Maybe you
it
don't even
must
have
just
to
count as
overdelve.
8.
Still, you can overdelve for paying for like you can overdelve to pay for things like Sphere and Thorn. Is what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I guess
I don't think you'd have to
Trinisphere
overdelve here. It just counts as an 8 mana spell.
counts as an 8. You're right. Still, it does let him tap 2 mana and accomplish something very powerful, which is
Yeah.
the important thing going on here.
Although I will say that it is interesting that I'm not sure that Dig Through Time there is that much more powerful than casting Jet. I guess his land drop next turn gets into 2 spells also. Um, but he already had a lot of good stuff. But the Ancient Grudge is just devastating.
Bob now forced to tap 3 for Mana Crypt. This does let him get Force of Will up, hypothetically. And he's just going, okay, here's all my artifact mana. He knows he's falling farther and farther behind. I mean, I think Bob's plan for this game was if he could get that mana drain off, he could dump, a Jace, a Thirst for Knowledge, and Rich just never gave him a mana drain target. Rich had 5 mana, refused to play Gush, didn't even want to tap 5 for it, waited until he could Gush with Flusterstorm back up. Rich is actually, I mean, I know you and I didn't love the line he took in game 1, but I think Rich has played this particular game really well.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way he's playing. I don't know what he was supposed to do here. I don't know. This is actually really interesting. I feel like you can't force a Will Black Lotus.
Now you're up so many cards. You've got Ancient. You can Ancient Grudge Black Lotus.
That's interesting. But
Let the
are you
Lotus
at all
resolve
tempted?
and then
At
grudge
any
it.
point, do you become tempted to just Ancient Grudge or Trinisphere? I know we say it's hurt Bob, but with Rich's hand now, maybe it is finally hurting Rich.
Possible.
Although I guess because so if Bob didn't go Mana Crypt into Black Lotus, if Bob doesn't do that, oh see I don't. This makes sense, not because Bob can't counter it. So it's great because whatever you do there, Bob can't counter. He has no mana.
Yeah. Grudge with Black Lotus on the stack makes a ton of sense.
Right. If Bob didn't go Mana Crypt into Black Lotus, you're like, okay, I love this Trinisphere. I'm going to start going for his Seats of Synods and his Moxes. But once he goes Crypt Lotus, then I feel like you can switch gears and get rid of the Trinisphere. Because now, now look at your hand. Although you only have 1 counter.
Come on, lead with the Mentor. He's going to lead with Ancestral, isn't he? Just lead with the Mentor.
I don't think I like that play. Because it just leaves you open to like Time Vault or whatever.
Yeah.
That was I think we could go back and do a lot of analysis. That was a very interesting situation.
The Ancient Grudge. He had a lot of options for sure.
Right, a lot of options, and that like, do you Force of Will, Mana Crypt, or Lotus? Like that's an interesting option.
Yep.
I mean, if you Force of Will, Mana Crypt, and then untap and Ancient Grudge both Seats of Synod, how is Bob winning? Seems really hard, right? This is just a disgusting mental misstep blowout. But yeah,
Yup.
I feel like Rich. Yeah, I don't know. Should have used some more clock there. Because that was tricky. And I mean, the transfer's on the table. He can ancestral. Um,
He does get to Snapcaster back the Ancestral here.
True. Though he's got to draw a blue card now.
I mean, Bob can just force this. Do you force pitching Jace? I think you do, right?
I wish I knew the top 3 cards of his deck.
We know one of them's a Mox Opal. I don't think we know the other two. I mean, your opponent's going to Ancestral and have a 2-1. I think you have to force this. I don't know. I may also be... I mean, I may be biased by the fact I can see Rich's hand, but... Oh, has he got a blue card queued up? Whoa! He's got a blue card queued up, so he doesn't even have to pitch the Jace. Love it. And because he's going to go in on Jace, he wants to force the Snapcaster, not just misstep the Ancestral.
Right.
Now Monastery Mentor finally comes down, but after all the action.
Yeah, that was a very interesting sequence. I feel like we haven't seen anything like that in a while.
Yeah.
And the more I'm thinking about it, I sort of think that the right play is Force of Will the Mana Crypt, untap, and double Ancient Grudge. Seems right to me. Just because how is Bob getting out of that? It seems really difficult.
I mean, Rich did have a handful of cheap spells. He would not have been able to take the turn that he just took if Trinisphere had still been on the table.
Bob can't do anything, and I don't think that knowledge of Bob's...
No, it's true that Bob basically thwarted all of Rich's turn except for the Mentor at the end.
Right, and Bob would not be able to do anything if you make that series of play, right? He tapped out to cast Mana Crypt, or he tapped under 3 mana, right?
He tapped down to 1. Mana Crypt.
Yeah, I think that was the play. Force of Will, Mana Crypt, untap, double Ancient Grudge.
Bob goes for Bounce Mentor.
Of course, now if Rich draws a blue card, this is really good for him because he can double Mentor with Force of Will. Ancient Grudge.
It's okay.
Well, it keeps him from getting comboed, right? I mean, he can cast...
Yeah.
I mean, Bob's deck has a hard time winning. If you haven't... I mean, the question is, do you cast both Mentors? And I don't think you can. I think you need to leave up Ancient Grudge in case. You just don't lose the time bomb.
These Mentors feel like they might take a little while, but kind of give Rich this inevitability here.
Well,
Opal, Key, and I think Tarn? Scalding Tarn, yeah.
It seems like that Rich is just always like, he can never tap down because he's in too much trouble. So it's like hard for him to like just get the Mentors out there before he casts the spells because he's just in danger of tapping low and getting beat.
So Bob's position is kind of interesting. He's got Voltaic Key, so he's got the key top combo that can actually let him draw 2 cards a turn. But there's also something to be said for Scalding Tarn to reshuffle and just look for some actual business.
Well, Voltaic Key top is good.
Yeah. I feel like I take Key here.
Voltaic Key is like half your combo. But against but this is what I was talking about earlier. It's possible that Bob's deck just has trouble slogging through Ancient Grudges.
He has a Yogg-Will, doesn't he?
Yeah, but like you said, it's a Time Vault deck. So when your opponent has 3 Ancient Grudges, that's a lot of ways to kill a Time Vault.
True.
Martel saying Bob needs a shuffle because the doesn't really, the key top is just not going to cut it against Mentor.
It's
He's
not going to
probably
beat
right.
Mentor. It's not fast enough. The thing is, though, the key is half your victory condition. That's like you get
Right.
something
So you
to
have
do
to ask
while you go
yourself, does
looking for the
that
vault.
also? Yeah. So it's tricky. Once again, it's tricky because you don't know what Rich's hand is. So if you just bounce the Mentor and use the top key as your card draw, is that worth anything?
Bob brainstorms with Jace.
So he misses opportunity to bounce the Mentor and then mana drain on the way down. But of course,
he didn't know he had the mana drain. The mana drain was the third card down. That's the new one.
He could have topped. Right, he could have topped before he used Jace.
It doesn't sound like a great use of 1 mana there.
I mean, he has a lot.
5? It's not that much. There's 6.
What's left to cast in his deck?
I mean, key top is not the most mana efficient card drawing in the world.
I'm just saying I would like to see that third card before I decide whether or not my play is bouncing Mentor.
No, I hear you.
Because I mean, doesn't your Jace just die now?
Yeah.
And if you get the Mentor out of play before you cast a spell, you don't have to worry about counters. So for Rich to get a token, you would have to do something proactive. Which he has something. Like if he bounces Mentor here, you probably just Ancient Grudge the Mana Crypt, so you know you can kill Jace. I think I have to think about that more, but wow, these first 2 games were much faster than this one.
Who played Trinisphere in the blue-on-blue matchup? What happened? It's just every turn it's got so many different options. All right. Here's I'll take key. It does resolve. God, I think Rich is going to want to throw a grudge at it relatively quickly.
Yeah, I think you just grudge the key.
Yeah. Bob has not reshuffled the Scalding Tarn. He wants the cards that are sitting on top of his library. So
well, that's where his mana drain is.
Yeah, exactly. So this is activate Sensei's Divining Top. As a response, untap it with Voltaic Key. That is going to allow Bob to activate the Divining Top. Oh, he's grudging the Divining Top, not the key. So as a response to tapping the Divining Top to put it on top, you can actually Ancient Grudge it.
Ah.
Bob gets the card for free without having to put a Divining Top on top of his library, but he did not get to untap the top with the key, and he is down the top.
So this is just fast bond. He has enough mana where he can fast bond and leave up Ancient Grudge and leave up Force of Will. So you just fast bond attack for 5. You gotta kill Jace.
You kill Jace. If you're not dealing 10 to Bob's face, you have to kill the Planeswalker. Rich lining up his options. Goes for your line. Here's Fast Bond.
Well, I mean, it's not like this line was that clever.
I'm just saying he could be Ancient Grudging things for prowess triggers.
Well, so if he needs 3 spells, doesn't do it, right? That's only 9. So given that he can only attack for 9, it doesn't seem to be worth it. I guess with Mana Crypt in play.
Yeah, you can get him to Mana Crypt, kills him range. You can make the Scalding Tarn activation hurt. Who's he
Well, you can
attacking?
get. I mean,
Is
I
he
assume
attacking
he's
Jace or
attacking
Bob?
Jace with the 2/2 and Bob with the 3/3, and he's going to figure out a way to win next turn. But
Makes sense to me.
right,
Yeah,
because
that's what I did.
now ancient grudges is game next turn. And wow, what an interesting game! I changed my opinion on
If
who's going
Bob
to win.
if Bob comes up with a time vault,
No, it doesn't. I mean,
he's
there's two.
got
He has
mana.
Force of Will. He's got Force of
Oh, he
Will
can
and
hard
ancient.
cast this. No blue card, right? I was thinking Bob does have the mana drain to stop one, so there's no blue card for the Force of Will, but there is 5 untap mana, of course. So.
No, Bob needs to draw a non-artifact card that matters.
Got it. So Tezzeret. Mox Emerald, not going to get it done. Wow. That was a cool game. Super intricate. Many turns of staring across from each other. I really liked the way Rich played while Trinister was in play. I thought that if he'd given Bob a mana drain target at any point, I think that Bob could have mana drained, gotten a bunch of stuff done, and really started to pull ahead. But Rich sort of didn't ever offer up anything to the mana drain gods, and in the end, he had a Flusterstorm. Oh, he had another for the Thirst for Knowledge. He had another Flusterstorm, and maybe he could have ended things faster with by leading with the Mentor rather than having the spell where their hands countered everything, then following up with Mentor. But he got there, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
he
he
got
played
there.
well. I mean, like I said, the only thing I think maybe he could have done differently was the go for the Force of Will to Mana Crypt, untap, destroy 2 lands. But I'm not even. I have to think about. I don't know if that loses to Bob just like untapping and playing Time Vault for 3 or something. I have to think about it.
Yeah, if you pull up a
Anyway,
cats of your Ancient Grudge. Anyway, super interesting game.
yeah,
Nice way to kick off the show. You got a game to go play now, though, don't you?
yeah. I gotta go play.
It's. I believe I thought about billing this the Grumpy Old Man feature match. Is that fair?
That's totally reasonable. Yeah, I can't really disagree.
Grumpy Old Man feature match coming up. It's going to be Chris Pakula against who else? Kai Buddha is, of course, the even grumpier old man. All right. Stay tuned, guys. We will be right back momentarily with match number 2.